I'd like to welcome Dr. Eamon Maher to Mary Immaculate College for the first of a series of taped and videoed interviews with significant figures in Irish studies. This is part of our new programme in the Mary Immaculate Institute for Irish Studies, and we're hoping to make a number of these interviews, talks and papers available to a wider community. Eamon is one of the foremost scholars in the Irish Studies field. He edits the Peter Lang Irish Studies series, which has some 58 books, which is a hugely impressive output. He's also the chairman of the National Centre for Franco-Irish Studies, which is a very, very active Irish Studies association which looks at links between Ireland and France, so we'll talk about that shortly. And I think it's fair to say he is probably the leading scholar on John McGahern, with 2 monographs and numerous conference papers and journal articles and essays on McGahern. Eamon, if I can, I'd like to start with McGahern. Why is he still an important figure?
Well, thank you, Eugene, for that introduction. I'm not sure now that I would be considered the leading McGahern scholar, but if you say so, Eugene, I'm going to have to accept that accolade. Thank you. McGahern, John McGahern. The reason we are so attached to John McGahern in Ireland, Eugene, in my view, is because of the wonderfully evocative and hard-hitting depiction of traditional rural Ireland that he captures in his work. From when his first published novel, The Barracks, in 1963, up until his death in 2006, he didn't publish a huge amount of books, but I always feel that with McGahern it was the one canvas on which he was working, that it was the full work. He was like a Renaissance painter. He was touching up things, and he was dealing with this hidden Ireland that he depicted so successfully. In his second novel, The Dark, for example, he had the courage to depict issues, taboo subjects like sexual abuse in the home, and he hinted at clerical sex abuse. He paid the price for that. Irish society was not prepared to face up to these issues. And now, in the light of what has emerged in recent decades, with the clerical abuse scandals and the various reports into those, we have begun to see that the Ireland which he depicted and which Irish society in the 1960s was not prepared to face up to, that was a true and realistic depiction, and that we own that debt for bringing it to our attention at a time when it wasn't profitable or popular to so do.
Is it a fair question to ask you then? I mean, you talked about all of those reports, the Murphy report, the Ryan report, the Klein report, and they're all there giving a particular linguistic expression of what happened in the Ireland of that time. Would you see McGahern, with his more individualistic and fictive creations, does that offer a different kind of truth? Or
I think it does.
Yeah.
I think it does, Eugene. I think literature can touch, can broach subjects that maybe reports, no matter how factual, cannot achieve. It's almost like through an artistic representation of these lived experiences, that you get a more universal resonance. And I think that's what McGahern has, that he makes of one little small place, that Leitrim, Roscommon area that he depicted so faithfully in his novel, he makes of it and everywhere. And he makes human experience a universal experience. I think that's his great gift as a novelist, that he manages to transcend the ordinariness and make it into something beautiful and unique.
Wasn't one of your books entitled McGahern from the Local to the Universal?
It was, and that title, I think, captures a fairly important element of McGahern's writing, in that he's a bit like Kavanagh. He makes of sort of local incidents something of an epic dimension. But as well as that, Eugene, I think what we look to in McGahern is we look to him for soothing words. It's like Heaney. Although he's portraying a harsh reality, he's doing so in a beautifully sculpted style, so that we're reliving the experience, and that might be traumatic enough experience that we're going through, but because of the art, because of the style, we're managing to get something other than that trauma. There's something beautiful in it as well.
So you see him as a stylist as well?
Oh yeah, I think he's a supreme stylist, I really do. He's very influenced by French writers, by many French writers, and particularly by Proust. Obviously memory is a big thing with him, memory regained, and also Flaubert, who once said that style, he'd like to be like God in nature as a writer, everywhere present but nowhere visible.
Yeah, a bit like James Joyce, the artist behind his creation, paring his fingernails. That takes us nicely, I suppose, from McGahern to the Franco-Irish connection and the organisation which you've set up. Could you tell us something about why you set up an association for Franco-Irish studies, and some perhaps of the newer areas that your association is now exploring?
Eugene, yeah. In 2003, I organised a first conference on Franco-Irish studies, just to see was there an interest out there. And I had the privilege of inviting your good self to give a keynote, because I knew of your interest in French cultural theory and its application to the Irish context. And it went from strength to strength from that point. We've had annual conferences. We had this year, in 2014, we celebrated our 10th annual conference in the National Concert Hall. And in terms of what we're doing, because it's important to know that we're a multidisciplinary association. I think that's one of our unique selling points, that we're not just Irish studies or literary studies, but we're Franco-Irish and we're multidisciplinary. This year we had our 10th annual conference in the National Concert Hall, and the theme was France and Ireland, music, words and art. And next year we hope to have something on tourism, sport and leisure in La Rochelle. And
I think you've also branched out into the whole gastronomy area, is that correct?
We have indeed. The centre is actually associated with the Dublin Gastronomy Symposium. It's a biannual conference that's held in Carlbrew Street, and Dr. Martin Machanumera is the head of that, the mainstream table. We're involved as organisers, and this year we published a selection of papers entitled in a book in the Reimagining Ireland book series to which you alluded, entitled Tickling the Palate, Gastronomy in Irish Literature and Culture.
Explain what gastronomy is, Eamon, because a lot of people like eating food, but
yes,
they may not be too comfortable or too aware that there can be an academic study on food.
Yeah, well, I'd like to say that this is the first academic book on Irish gastronomy, so okay, we're very happy about that. It's a discipline that probably isn't given the credit that it should be given, especially in academic terms. Gastronomy is the study of food and drink, but more so eating and drinking habits, perhaps. So it's a subject in which people have great interest. And I, for example, this time around, I gave a paper on the rituals of eating and drinking in John McGahern. And I found a myriad of references to food and drink. And I suppose it's embedded in Irish culture a little bit with the famine and all that. The spectre of the famine is there all the time. We have it in the field, we have it in Heaney, we have it in Kavanagh. It's all over its imprint is all over Irish culture and literature. So that was a great success. I think it's nice to change tack. I think that's something that a centre, if it's to survive, has to do. It has to reinvent itself, and it has to try and get new, young, vibrant voices involved. And we've been lucky enough to attract a number of them.
Yeah, I think it's very important that in Irish studies now, I mean, Irish studies as an area or as a discipline is a name which is a catch-all. It can include anything. But I think what you're doing is you're taking a particular niche and you're using the Franco-Irish connections then as a kind of a lens through which to look at maybe hitherto occluded aspects of Irish culture. Because when you think about it, every major feast in our lives, from birth to death to marriage, christenings, confirmations, communions, all the big religious feasts, they're all associated now with eating and drinking.
Yes, they are. And heretofore, I think what you were saying is it has been taken for granted. And a great danger with something like sport or gastronomy is that everybody feels they have a legitimate right to say what everybody has an opinion on food and drink, because we all do it. in the same way as we have opinions on sport. But the actual discipline of gastronomy, it's not always realised how much it does impact on literature and culture. And to try and give it that academic, I think that publication of Tickling the Palate will serve to maybe boost people's awareness of just what an academic discourse it can be.
And would it be fair to say so that you're using food as a kind of a social and cultural signifier?
I am, and the contributors to the book certainly are. We have chapters in the book on, like Jamet's iconic restaurant in Dublin, and there's the French connection. That's probably what we're involved in, because when you think of gastronomy, you naturally think of France. And we have.
I think we're okay. I think we have it sorted out. Well, it's on record. How do I stop it then to make sure I've saved it, if you know what I mean?